Hello everybody and welcome back. I'm Wolf and this is Starbound version 1.0. Today we're going to be talking about the rail system. You craft the rail station at the fully upgraded inventors table. Go ahead and show you what you need for it. So durasteel, silver, silicone, copper wire, and batteries. You craft most of that just like the wiring station at this fully upgraded furnace. And then the main metal you'll need for rail stuff is silver, as well as the other materials. And you'll need some durasteel for the rails and the bar, unless you want to use the crappy rails, which will take copper. So anyway, we're going to go up to a little setup I have to try and explain some of the mechanics behind it. So the way rails work is you take it out, and then wherever you place it, if there's no rail there, it'll just hit the floor and turn into nothingness. If it hits a wall, it'll pop off and turn into a pickup item. But if you place it on a rail, it'll follow that rail. If the rail is open on the end, then it'll fly off, and if it lands on another rail, as you can see, it'll reattach itself. Rails can be placed diagonally to create these type of lines, or you can make corners with them. At the end of a rail, if you don't have a bumper, it'll fly off. So you want to make sure that you cap off your things or make them a full loop so that they never fly off. Now, a rail chooses what direction it wants to go based off the way you're facing, I think. So I'm facing this way, it should go this way now. Yeah. It's kind of hard to tell exactly how it's going to work. That's mesmerizing. See, like if I put it here, it'll go around in a circle here. But if I put it on this side, it'll go around that side. And then if I put it in the middle, it'll go around that side. So it's kind of hard to figure out exactly how it's going to work until you just place it down and see. See if I could get it on that side. Yeah, so that one went on that side. So you kind of just want to place it down and see how it works. There's two rules for where it'll travel. If it reaches an intersection and it has a straight path, it'll always choose the straight path. If it reaches, let's say like a T intersection on a wall here, if there was a downwards path here, it would always take the downwards path. But if there's a straight path, it would always go straight instead of the downwards path. So that's just some stuff to keep in mind about the rail system. Now, aside from the rails, the bumpers, and the rail platform, we also have a sensor on the rail. Whenever a rail passes the sensor, it'll send out a signal. It lasts quite a long time. As you can see, it just barely runs out before the rail gets back to it to turn it back on again. So it lasts a good couple of seconds. We also have a rail stopper. So it has to be wired up, otherwise it'll just always be off and stop rails. And whenever you turn it on, it'll allow the rail to pass through it. And when you turn it off, it'll stop the rail the next time it reaches it. So it's a pretty simple mechanic. It can be used for elevators and stuff, like I have all throughout this place. Like that. We also have rail switches, like track switches. And the way they work is whenever they're off, they act as if there's no rail there at all. But if you turn it on, as you can see, it connected up to it. If I turn this one on, it'll also connect up that way, so you create a path. The best way to handle splitting off rails is if you have a path like this, where it goes down with the rail switch right there, and a path that goes up on top of the rail switch. So you want it diagonally going down. That way it always behaves the exact same way, because it'll always prefer to go down instead of up. You can probably do something similar like with this Y. You just have to make sure you have the right one off so it goes down the right path. This is the way you just use one, and you know that it's always going to go down the right path. So let's go ahead and put this on there. And I've also hooked up these two sensors to the switch, but I haven't hooked the switch up to the rail track. But if I do, you'll see that it started switching. Oh wait, this is going the wrong way. Let me get it. Okay, so now it's going the right way. So now it'll start circling around the track and it'll start switching. So there's just a simple little use you can use rails for. I think rails can even like carry items or something. Like if I can oh, no, I don't even want to try and land it on there. It'll take too much effort. But yeah, there's just a little something you can hook up. Now let's cover something that most people will probably want to build with their rail system, and that would be like a standard elevator. To make just a very basic elevator, you only need this section over here that has some OR gates and some persistent switches. But if you want a fancy elevator like I'm about to show you, then for every floor stop you have, you're going to need 2 OR switches, 2 persistent gates, or persistent switches. You'll need an AND switch and a NOT gate per floor. So each one of these has the exact same setup. And you'll also need a number of buttons on each floor equal to the number of floors plus 1. So you got 4 buttons on each floor. If I had 4 floors, it'd be 5 buttons on each floor. And this is like a really compact version. You'll definitely want to space it out more because there's not even a reason to make this since you can just jump that high. But yeah, this is just to show you how to hook it all up. So the first thing we're going to do to try and avoid like crossing the wires, these OR gates are going to represent our buttons. So for example, this top one is going to be the top button on each floor along with the outside button on the top floor. The middle one will be the middle ones along with the middle floor, and the bottom floor, same principle. Instead of hooking those up right now and having wires all over the place, we're just going to pretend like they're already hooked up. So we got this OR gate and we got these persistent switches. So if the top floor, if you press the button to stop it at the top floor, we want the rail stopper at the top to be off. But we want the other 2 to be on so that it'll pass through those floors in order to get to the top one. So we want it to turn off on the floor that it's across from, and we want it to turn the other 2 floors on. And we'll just hook the other ones up the same way. Turn off the one that it's on and turn on the other 2. Off the one that it's on, turn on the other 2. And that's how you hook that up. And then if you were to hook up the buttons to these OR switches, you would have a functioning elevator system. But like I said, I'm not going to do that just yet. That way I can avoid some wires. Now on each floor we have an OR gate here. More than likely, your elevator is going to be super large or far apart away from this central thing. So you'll need to relay the outputs on these to these OR gates near each stop so that you can hook everything else up from there. So you'll take the bottom floor's persistent switch and hook it up to the bottom floor's OR gate. The middle floor to the middle floor OR gate, and the top floor to the top floor OR gate. And this can work with more and more floors, like as many floors as you want. Just make sure that you're cascading all of this to the floors, otherwise you'll run out of wire limit, like I talked about in the wiring tutorial. So we got those passing down to the OR gates. Actually, let's not pass them yet, because those wires are kind of getting in the way. We'll pass them later. For now, we're going to hook up the OR switches to this area over here. So the way it's going to work is if the elevator doesn't stop on that floor, the doors are going to close. That way you can't get into the elevator shaft. And then whenever the elevator is coming down to that floor, we want it to capture that it's passing through the sensor, and it has to also be stopping at that floor, and then it'll open the door. So we have 2 things that we want to check. We want to check that the rail stopper is not on, which means it's going to stop. So we'll pass the persistent switch to the OR gate, and then we'll pass that to a NOT gate. We also want to check if it passes through the sensor, so we hook these 2 things up to an AND gate. So we have the opposite of this persistent switch, and we have the rail sensor hooked up to an AND gate. Now we hook this AND gate up to the on switch on another persistent switch. These persistent switches over here control the doors once we finally hook everything up. So this AND gate will go to the on the persistent switch, and we also want to hook up just the base value to the off on the persistent switch, because that means basically if this is on, then it's going to turn this off, which means it'll close the doors. Because remember, whenever they're on, they'll turn green, so it'll pass through them because they don't want to be on that floor. It's kind of hard to explain, but I don't know. That's the best I can do, honestly. You're just going to have to follow the wiring along if you want to recreate it. So we'll take the OR gate to the NOT gate to the AND gate. This time we have two row sensors. We want to hook them both up to the same spot on the AND gate. And then the AND gate goes to the top of the persistent switch, and the OR gate goes to the bottom of the persistent switch. Same up here, OR to NOT to AND, sensor to AND to top of persistent, OR to bottom of persistent. And these will be hooked up to the doors once I get everything hooked up. Okay, so I think that's about it. I guess while we're here, we also need to hook up each OR gate to the stopper on that floor, which is that middle red one now. So hook up each OR gate to their corresponding stopper. And I think that is all of the base wiring. So now let's pull these back over here, because this is the relay for the persistent switch for each floor. Okay, so we got those pulled back. Now let's turn it all off because they're all on. So all these doors would close if we hook it up, so we don't want to do that just yet. We want to keep the doors open a little longer. So let's hook up the buttons then. So all the top ones on each floor go to the top one, including the outside on the top floor. Now we bring all the middle ones to the middle OR switch. You just gotta be really careful not to click on the wrong thing. You have two options here. If you want to be careful, you can just click in the middle, because it doesn't matter which one it lands on. And then this middle one. Now we need the bottom ones. Now if you have a really tall setup, this will take a long time. Okay, bottom one, click in the middle just so you're careful. Okay, so now we should see that whenever we press a button, it'll activate the elevator in the way we want. So it'll stop on the bottom floor and it'll pass through the other two floors. If we press this one, it'll stop on the middle one and pass through the other two. And we can activate this with the buttons inside as well. So now that we have all that hooked up, I think we're ready to hook the doors up as well. Yeah, let's go ahead and hook the doors up as well. So each one of these persistent switches will be hooked up directly to the door. Let me just see where it is. It's right down here. There's quite a mess of wires already. Right here. Okay, let's put the rail down on this. Wait, where's my rails at? Did I drop them? Okay, there we go. So let's put the rail down on the... Ah, dang it. I'm gonna have to open this door up. You want to put the rail down first before you do the doors, I guess. Because that's one of the conditions for opening the doors, is the rail passing through. Okay, so it's all set up now. It's really hard to explain. And it's not... This is probably the best system that you can use, but it does have a flaw. So watch as I send it down to this one. It knows that it's still going down, so whenever I call it to the top floor, it'll have to travel all the way to the bottom before it goes back up. And if you have a really tall elevator, it could be a while before it reaches the top floor. And another flaw with the system is people on different floors spamming the buttons. It'll just keep whatever the last person inputted. So you want to like try and keep... It's not very multiplayer friendly is what I'm trying to say. But this is just a basic elevator system. I can't think of any better way to do it without making it just infinitely more complicated. But that'll do it. I don't know. I probably didn't explain it too well. I hope someone grasped something from this. If anything, you should be able to copy this system and make it for your own base, even if you don't understand exactly how it works. But that'll do it for this episode. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.